Good afternoon, everyone. I hope on the way in the door you had an opportunity to look at some of the reflections entries that were posted there, courtesy of the art stands from the Arts of Canmore, and courtesy of PTA. So on behalf of the board, I welcome all members of the audience to this afternoon's meeting. This meeting is a working session of the board to conduct the business of the district. The agenda for today's meeting has been published, and the agenda items to be discussed and are voted on have been studied by board members. I'd like to introduce the people here on the dais with me. To my far left is Recording Secretary Cindy Benson, Superintendent Larry Francois, board members Amy Cast, Sandy Hayes, Don McCravey, and Kimberly D'Angelo. I'm Janet Quinn, and I currently serve as president of the board. Agendas for this meeting, as well as minutes from our previous meeting, are available on the table at the back. And if you're here to address the board on agenda items, please sign in on the clipboard that's on the table with the agendas, and you'll have an opportunity near the beginning of the meeting for your comments. First order of business this evening is the superintendent's report.
Good afternoon and welcome back after a brief break. On January 29th and 30th, I had the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with our school leadership teams in their continued professional learning communities training with Pete Hall. And so this is a continuation of PLC work that launched with Pete at our August advance last summer. I'm very proud of the work our schools are doing to truly integrate the philosophy and practices of authentic PLCs into their everyday work. On January 30th, I attended the retirement party for longtime Director of Nursing Services, Sandy Tracy. I think most of you know Sandy. She has just provided excellent leadership for our health and nursing services over her many years of service. She's also been an integral member of our community schools and natural leader teams. And we certainly wish Sandy all the best as she embarks on many new adventures, particularly with a brand new grandchild who slept peacefully throughout the entire retirement celebration. On January 31st, a Saturday, I was very pleased and grateful for the timely release of our draft boundary adjustment plan, that we were able to meet our commitment to the community for that date. Special thanks and acknowledgement to our support services staff, our communications department, the EDTF, Carolyn O'Keefe, and a host of other folks who all worked very hard to develop the plan and to prepare for the plan's launch and release. As of late last week, there had been over 12,000 hits on the Boundary Finder tool on the website, and close to 80 individual comment and input forms submitted, although I think that might be up a little bit, 140 maybe, somewhere around there now. We had our first Boundary open house last night, and 3 of you were able to attend that. I thought it was really an excellent format and a great opportunity for interested folks to interact personally with members of the EDTF, with district staff, talk specifically about their questions and concerns and needs around the draft boundary plan. And I was just very proud of the collective efforts of the EDTF, support services, communications, all the folks who spent hours over the last couple of months preparing for that first open house. We obviously have our second one scheduled for this Thursday at Bothell High School. And I would say that overall, given the scope of the boundary plan changes, 3,200 students district-wide, impacting nearly every school community at some level or another, this is going much better than expected, and again, thanks in large part to the clear information and the ongoing communication efforts and outreach efforts we've had around this project over the last couple of years. On February 2nd, Carolyn and Ryan and I had the opportunity to meet with representatives from the Islamic Center of Bothell, who have purchased the Monavia farmhouse adjacent to our facility over here, for their mosque and their community center. And they're part of a growing Islamic community in our area. They currently number about 200 families, including an increasing number of families that are in our school. So we talked about the possibility of a future presentation, perhaps in conjunction with our August advance, to help build a greater awareness and cultural sensitivity within our staff as we welcome more and more diverse families into our school communities. And this meeting also prompted me to reach out to the chairman of the board for the Hindu Temple and Cultural Center up in North Bothell, and have a similar conversation. And so I'm working towards seeing if we can perhaps get representatives from both of those organizations to be a part of our August advance, where we have a good group to start a conversation at that event. On February 2nd, I attended conversations with the board at Inglemoor High School. I would say there were 25 to 30 parents and community members in attendance. The release of the draft boundary plan 2 days before was clearly on folks' minds, as well as a wide range of other topics that were of interest. On February 3rd, attended the Bear Creek School Improvement Visit with Directors Cast, Hayes, and D'Angelo. Appreciated the presentation by New Bear Creek Principal Sarah White, especially the performance disaggregation of Bear Creek's EAP and neighborhood populations, and a very candid and forthright discussion about that. And as always, thoroughly enjoyed the opportunity to spend time in classes, and again, thank the students and teachers for warmly welcoming us to participate in their learning for that morning. On February 5th, we brought in our full ATM for a bit of an unscheduled meeting to bring them up to speed on kind of the ongoing discussions at the board level around start times, the draft boundary plan that we were able to then share with them in more detail than we had earlier in the month, and our plan for in-district waivers, with that being sort of the number one question that seems to be on folks' minds right now, and one that principals might find themselves on the receiving end. For the second half of the meeting, our instructional administrators received a presentation on the upcoming Smarter Balanced assessments, including some communication and outreach support for educating both staff and parents on the differences between these new assessments that we're heading into and versus the current assessment system that we've had for a number of years across our state. And finally, last Friday, I attended the Seattle King County Workforce Development Board meeting. Representative Susan Del Bene was the featured guest speaker who spoke to workforce development legislation under consideration in Congress, where President Quinn had just met with her earlier in the week, so she gets around. And I'm continuing to learn more about the Workforce Development Council and the various roles they play at the regional, state, and national levels to promote workforce development efforts. So it's an interesting learning experience for me. That's it.
Thank you. Another busy couple of weeks. All right, next item on the agenda is special presentation. North Shore Schools Foundation Executive Director Carmen Dalziel will present a check to the Board of Directors that represents their winter fund allocation. Welcome, Carmen.
Thank you. So, my name is Carmen Dalziel. I'm representing the North Shore Schools Foundation, as well as co-president Becky Burge, and actually vice president and chair of the granting committee, Davina Dewar. So, as you may know, the North Shore Schools Foundation is a school-supported agency whose mission is to support academic success and excellence for all of our North Shore students. Since our inception in 1996, we have granted more than $1 million to the district. Not that you would know that, because I tell you a lot. And the programs we are funding are impacting students approximately 18 times during their school careers. It is my great honor to present you with a check today for nearly $40,000. This donation represents the individual and corporate donations of more than 1,000 individuals in 2014. No, more than 1,600 individuals in 2014. While all our fall fundraising efforts with the annual All In for Kids calling campaign came in at about half of what we usually raise, we are striving to build the partnerships that our district desires and to support our students. So we're trying to maintain a high level of funding for you. The money we are granting today is going to support several very important programs. We're going to be providing funding support for the PE teachers in the district to attend the National SHAPE Conference, which is being held in Seattle this year. This is a one-time opportunity that takes advantage of the location that it's in Seattle, and our teachers can save the money for lodging and save the money for transportation. We were able to cover some sub-time so that our kids can still have high-quality teaching and our teachers can get the things that they need. Ultimately, we are excited that the staff are going to have access to innovative new programming, best industry standard practice, and the camaraderie that results from those kind of conferences. And we know that the end result is going to be a vital physical education program, and that this funding will virtually affect every elementary school student for the next coming years, because teacher training is the gift that keeps on giving. To that end, we are also continuing our commitment to the district to support the National Board Teacher Certification Program. The foundation funds support teachers with paid days off so they can work on their submission, and also to join the UW support group, which has demonstrated that teachers are more successful in passing the national boards when they participate in this UW support group led by Dion Garcia. Funds granted today will also provide new classroom libraries for brand new elementary school teachers district-wide. This initiative has gained quite a lot of energy and support. The funding that we're going to give today has a lot to do with the Greater Bothell Chamber of Commerce, who chose us as their fund a need at their auction. And the Woodinville Rotary has taken on a similar cause, funding classroom libraries directly at the Woodinville schools. So we're excited because we are building that momentum in the community. We're also excited because we're actually getting funding to you this year for this year's teachers, so that's a big move for us. Another old funding standard is Math Olympiad. The foundation has been the sole funder for this program many times since 2000. Pretty much every time we're asked, we put the money towards it, so it's a big part of what we do. And then, of course, in the Career and College Readiness arena, we're excited to be the funding partner with Timbercrest and Leota Junior High Schools, who are doing a pilot career day model, which puts all the 7th graders at one school and the 8th and 9th graders at another school so that they can actually be accurately exposed to things that are interesting to them at their level. So we're hoping that's going to be successful and something that may work. That's what is great about foundation funding, that you can fund some pilot things and give them a try. And then we're also funding, in the area of career and college readiness, some sports medicine program to enhance their course to enhance their sports medicine program and enhance their course offerings, there we go, and provide meaningful educational experiences for those youth. We are also a proud supporter of the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for our youth to perform at Carnegie Hall. Their selection is a tribute to our awesome music education that is district-wide, and it is no wonder that the skill level of our youth deserves national attention for their accomplishments. Also in the music arena, the music program at SAS, the foundation has been a long-standing funding partner for that. We're inspired by the way that music inspires those students and engages them socially and academically in a way that provides a positive impact on their future. This program, we've been funding since the inception, and now the foundation's allowing donors to directly fund programs that have been previously funded by the foundation. So we were able to donate more than 1,000 directed dollars to SAS this today. And finally, finally and definitely not least, we're adding an additional $1,420 to our fall granting for the McKinney-Vento program. The program services provided by Eileen, Charisse, Chris, Sandy, Kathy, and the whole team are things that really make a lifetime of difference for our students, and being a partner in funding this area is something that is our complete and total joy. So in all, we are granting $39,395, supporting 12 very conservatively school board goals and impacting nearly 36,480 students. It's like $1 a student there. It's pretty cool. The next major granting from the foundation will be in the fall of 2015, and our ability to fund the nearly $500,000 worth of requests that we're holding largely depends on participation of our community and the demonstration of the value of what we're funding and the impact that our students are having, which coincidentally is why we're having an annual luncheon on April 7th, which you're all invited to. This year's focus is on health and human services and teacher excellence. We will be highlighting our very first ever scholarship recipient, our second annual Innovative Educator, and featuring an interactive student expo from 11 to noon with gardening and hospital services and social media and lots of interesting stuff. So I hope you will consider joining us, as your presence is an important part of how we build bridges in the community and how we connect our community to our schools. This event is likely to have over 400 people in attendance with representation from both chambers, 3 cities, and much of the business community that does business in and around our wonderful district. Thank you for this opportunity to serve you and our students, and I would like to invite Becky up so we can officially present our huge check.
Thank you so much. We're very appreciative of the North Shore Schools Foundation.
I'm glad. You know, it's the good things. And today, how do you want to do this? Well, we can't go boy, girl, boy, girl. Yeah, cover up. Present them a bit. Yeah, cover up. Okay, 1, 2. Thank you so much. on that and went through the questions. Thank you. Lovely.
Again, thank you so much, Foundation. We do appreciate you.
Thank you.
So the North Shore School Board has set aside a period of up to 60 minutes to receive updates and comments from association leaders and citizens from our community. The board expects speakers to address matters related to district operations, policies, procedures, and agenda items under consideration by the board. Comments should not make reference to any employee or representative from the district by name. If interested, there is a complaint process available through the Office of the Superintendent. Please note that because of the public governance process, the board may ask clarifying questions regarding topics not on the meeting's agenda, but will likely defer discussion to a future meeting if warranted, in order for staff to prepare any necessary background information for board members to review and for the discussion item to be included on a published agenda for the benefit of any other parties who may be interested. Alternatively, a district employee or board member may respond to individuals offering public comment at a later date. When addressing the board, please state your name clearly for our records. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. There is a timer that will sound when your time has expired. We really appreciate you coming tonight to share your thoughts and your participation in the governance process. I see Sherry. Are there any other association leaders?
Hi. I missed you all last time. I was on an airplane. I almost made it, but didn't quite work out. I actually got to visit a school in American Samoa, so it was very cool. Very family oriented there, so it was unique. I am looking forward to, we're going to meet with Carmen and Becky in March and put all of our thousands of volunteers together with a lot of their support and see what great things we can do in the next couple of years to help with this transition. So I'm excited for that. You guys are too.
We're excited too.
So I wanted to thank you so much. I had so much fun. I know Mindy talked a little bit about Focus Day, but it was very special to be with Board Member Hayes and both of our children at Focus Day. That was very fun, special. Very unique day. So I did want to pass on very special congratulations. I didn't know it was gonna be made such a big deal. We did have the opportunity through one of Jay Inslee's former Mount Lake Terrace. She worked in his office when he was back in District 1, and so I was waiting to start the tour and didn't realize that she was going to say, oh, you need to meet our council president. And so I was like, oh, hi. And then that was actually made my daughter's day, her year, made, I think, meeting the governor. And so he said, oh, North Shore, you guys are doing exciting things there. I really am happy to meet you. And I said, oh, okay, great. So I wanted to pass that on to all of you. So, because I was like, wow, it was not what I was expecting at all. So thank you. I did want to, I know Sandy's always up on all of this as well, but the House version of the social emotional learning bill, that is going to be presented 8 a.m. on Thursday. So we just got that email from our Washington State PTA president. So just wanted to let you know, because that is the version, the co-sponsors that affect us, Representative Pollitt and Representative Goodman. That's their bill. There's also a Senate version, but the House version is going to be presented first. So that is, let me get the exact wording. Sorry. A bill that would establish a work group to develop guidelines and benchmarks to improve social and emotional behaviors in the classroom. So just a lot of things that we want to support for our kids, especially in this district, but obviously the whole state as well. Thank you again, Janet, for allowing us to have the display. So hopefully take time to look at. Those are the reflections entries that they had like an honorable mention, or just kind of we wanted to do kind of a broad example. The state winners, there's actually 52, those are being judged right now. And those we will know who has moved on to state and or who is placed at state and will move on to nationals. We will know that on March 15th. Very excited with so many. We should have a good chance. And then also looking forward to partnering on the Smarter Balance Info Nights. We're going to help with that. Just hoping to kind of do what Shoreline, model what Shoreline did, and it's helpful that they're in our region, so we'll be able to meet with their council and see the ways that we can partner with that, and especially also natural leaders as well, to make sure that the Spanish speakers in our district know how to, go on the computer, how, that they know what their kids are doing as well. So thanks so much for the opportunity to be here. Looking forward to our next general meeting, Rosemary and College. That's the plan. That's hopefully mid-session update.
Thank you, Sherry. Are there any other associations present tonight? I don't see anyone. So we'll move right on to the public comments, and we'll start with Eric Lucas.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time today. My name is Eric Lucas, and I come to you as a district music teacher, as a resident living in North Bothell, a proud parent of 2 Bothell High School alumni, and an alumni of the district myself. I'm coming to you today, my purpose is just to talk about the proposed time change for school starting in 2015. And let me start by saying I'm not opposed to this possibility. I myself, being a 0-period teacher, see very early mornings and how tired our kids come in for that. My concern rather right now is the accelerated proposed timeline for it starting as early as 2015. And my concern is the impact that it might have on the elementary band and orchestra program. Right now, that program is dependent upon students being able to ride their junior high bus to their rehearsal site, get shuttled back. And there's been some concern expressed that possibly that service might be impacted because of start times and not enough drivers and so forth. So we're kind of concerned because the trickle-up nature of the dependence of us as high school and junior high teachers on a really strong elementary band and orchestra program. The other concern we have is if we were to lose that, or say, well, parents, just get your kids there. There are a lot of families, because of early morning work situations or child care situations, they may have to choose to not provide that opportunity for their kids to be involved in the music program at all. And there's a lot of research that's really linking the benefits of a strong music education in those developmental elementary ages on brain development and testing and so forth. I've been the benefit of a wife who's a research scientist. She funnels those articles to me when she finds them. So what I'm just asking you right now is, as a high school teacher who wants to continue to see the 3 award-winning music programs stay strong through our junior highs and our high schools, is if we could continue to research and look at moving the start times, but look at doing it in conjunction with the boundary readjustment and the grade reconfiguration. It would give us time as music faculty to work with transportation and really even look at our program. This program's been in place for 30 years. I'm sure there's some things that we can tweak. We're going to need to make adjustments moving to middle school and high school model. And it would just give us the time to work in conjunction with other district programs to keep the level of service that we have. So, and for what it's worth, I was going through an old North Shore Citizen newspaper, August of 1983, my senior year starting here at Inglemoor High School, and it said, start times are not changing in the North Shore School District, and Bothell, Woodinville, and Inglemoor started at 8:05. Thank you very much for your time, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Eric. Ted Christensen.
I'd just like to say that Eric Lucas is a former student of mine and a former student teacher of mine, and I wish I could be as calm on this issue. I'm very concerned about starting this too early. As a matter of fact, I'm really concerned about doing this at all without an accurate impact study of all the programs that could be affected. Certainly, elementary band and orchestra is my bailiwick. But on the same token, I don't think the stakeholders in this community really understand the impact of what this could be starting too early. I'm not sure we could even be ready in 2017, quite frankly. The elementary band and orchestra program has been running at least for 30 years the same way. To make an adjustment this quickly is almost impossible. So as your music coordinator, I am asking that a full impact study be made so that we can really decide if this is the right decision to make. I'm also a member of the community. I pay taxes in this community. My children have gone through Inglemoor High School. I love this district, and the main reason I'm here is because of the music program. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Annette Whelan.
Hi. My name is Annette Whelan. I would like to thank you all for taking the time at the study session today to look at options to move to a later start time. PALS has spent nearly 10 years advocating this issue because it is the right thing to do for the health, well-being and academic success of our kids. Primarily, we advocate for late starts for teens, high school teens, because when you're a parent of an elementary child or junior high, you don't realise the impact of sleep deprivation on your child until they reach the early start times of high school, and then it's too late. And we want to spare those children what we are seeing with our own. And Janet, thank you very much indeed for meeting with Sandy at Fairfax. It just shows that even with 160,000 children, later start times can be achieved. Today I would just like to address some of the statements that have been made and questions that have been raised at the board meetings over the last few months. Although many people seem to think otherwise, teenagers are still children, and growing ones at that. They're not adults, and their growing brain and bodies need an average of 8.5 hours of sleep per night. Reducing exposure to distractions can help, but many teens simply cannot fall asleep before 11 p.m. This is an undisputed fact. This is not a matter of will, but biology. Another fallacy is that conditions today are precisely like those of the past. They are not. Children in the past did not have the pressure of homework, sports, and extracurricular activities in addition to a number of required hours of instructional time that today's children are expected to have in order to gain college admission and compete for gainful employment. It's also not true that by advocating for our kids to start school later, we're somehow coddling them. The fact is that research shows that sleep is just as necessary as nutrition and exercise, and to deprive children of sleep is unhealthy, as it can lead to a number of physical, psychological, and educational problems. School districts have changed to later start times all over the country and the world. Later starts have an immediate impact on the students. Athletics and extracurricular activities and core activities continue. Communities adjust to fit in. Traffic patterns change. The reason we're all here is because our jobs are these children. School districts that have put student health and well-being first have found a variety of creative solutions to move to later start times. I would also suggest that you look at three-tier transport options. You'll need a few more buses, some extra drivers. You're going to need all that in 2017. And it'll also help with all the field trips with respect to giving bus drivers more hours. I have the utmost respect for our bus drivers, by the way. I hope that today you will decide that it's the best to move to a later start time earlier rather than later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Annette. Nancy Chandler-Brown.
Good evening. I'm Nancy Chandler-Brown. I'm a parent, taxpayer, shop steward, and also bus driver in this district. As a taxpayer, the hat that I'm wearing at the moment is I'd rather see the money put into the classroom. I'd rather see it go for more teachers, more books, more educational programs that have to do with the reality of life. There are more options for students to have a later start time, other than just changing everything willy-nilly. One of the ways to do it is to use Inglemoor High School as an example. Their first bell time is at 7:10. Their second bell time and second period is at 8:10. There's the North Shore Network. There are other possibilities where students go to college for a few classes and then they go on to their main high school classes. The education of people in our district is essential, not only for the outcome of their decision, but also each of us as individuals. The internet research shows that many studies say that school start time should be later for high school students. However, like with many things, you can also find opposing viewpoints. I did some research. I looked at the NIH, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and something called the Health Institute. Each of them had a study that said it was beneficial for students to get sleep before midnight. Said it was worth 2 hours before midnight versus the hour after midnight, which beneficially, it wasn't nearly as great as it was if you went to bed at a reasonable hour. Specifically, I'd like to know what it's going to cost me as a taxpayer. What's it going to cost? What's going to be cut? Out of the things that make North Shore a premier district that allow people to move into it simply because it's North Shore. Real estate agents use it as a selling feature. It tells us we're doing something right. It's important to continue to do those things correctly. How have the ethnically diverse populations of our district been surveyed? It seems that there aren't as many diversifications as we need. One last thing. Board intentions are not widely known within the community. Diversification and transparency of information is not known throughout our community and what its impact will be from your decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. I think it's Lynn Frisch, is that right?
Linda.
Linda Frisch.
Hi, my name is Linda Frisch, and I am a member of the community. I am a school bus driver. I'd like to begin by saying, as a taxpayer in our district, I've always been very proud of the reputation that our district has had. I have a sister-in-law, brother-in-law, and a niece who work in our state as teachers, and they have always been envious of our programs and continued public funding. And I've always voted for the school levies, knowing how important they are. The choices that we make have monetary consequences. And as I look at the options that you have before you, the changes in school bell times, I have to ask you, at what cost are you willing to take this district to adhere to the National Pediatric Association recommendation? I also implore you to be honest with our district families at what the cost can be, and would they like the infusion of money to go to a classroom or to transportation? Our district has been very good at giving families options. With your vote to change the high school bell time, I feel that you're mandating away from these choices when we have a cost-neutral choice already in place. And that would be to offer Woodinville High School and Bothell High School the same choice that Inglemoor High School has had successfully for many years. Offer periods 1 through 6 and 2 through 7. I wonder if allowing the students to sleep in 40 minutes is worth all the disruptions and costs. And is it really that important? And why not change the start times to 2 hours later? And they can go after all the other grades, which also would be a cost-neutral situation, or solution, excuse me. According to the survey, it appeared to me that as you keep stating the need for a later bell time and the interest that people had, I do not think that these same respondents were so keen on the idea that they would be in favor of a bus levy for further transportation costs. I do not think it was clear to the respondents the choices they would make could have a very major financial consequence. From the meeting at the Enigma High School the other night, conversations with the board, I learned from the people in my group how lacking the communication is to our district families. As we approach 2017, I urge you to facilitate better communication with schools, to their school newsletters and PTA newsletters. The communication to the financially diverse community of our families and of our very large district needs to be done in more creative ways and transparent to the taxpayers, that we can be sure that we have reached out the majority of our community and not just a few. And one more thing, the EDTF secondary recommendation, along with the boundary change, was the building of a new facility in 2010 to accommodate the growth at the north end. Would it be wise to ask the taxpayers for a bus levy and the next year for a new facility in a school levy? Let's put the money in the classroom and not in fuel and buses. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Heather Boyce? A little bit of my comments might be redundant, but I have a friend, when we were at the last meeting, one of you, and I don't remember who, I'm sorry, wanted to know why this Hispanic community was not quite as supportive of the bell change. And so I asked a friend of mine who is Spanish, and she said, our older children take care of our younger children when they get home from school so that we can work our 2 jobs to be able to support our families. And I thought that was something that you needed to hear. I'm disappointed that the most current estimates of costs were not on the website for the public to see and for me to see. The other option that was quickly discussed is if the high school, what high schoolers were moved to after the late elementary, there would be no additional bus charges, there would be no expenses of new buses, there would be no requirement for new bus drivers, and there would be no requirement for extra property to be purchased to park the new buses on. It would be the lowest cost impact to the district. I'm a school bus driver, by the way. We have a difficult time maintaining the number of bus drivers that we have now. And if these other options require 50 more bus drivers, I'm afraid it will fall flat on its face. We will not be able to first get them and then maintain the bus drivers, because the hours would be cut and they would go to other districts where they could get more hours. They come here and get trained and then leave, which is what happens. I also think that the public should be able to vote on 1 or 2 changes, knowing full well what the cost should be. You're talking $4.5 to $5 million. I think that not going to the classroom at all, I think the public would really appreciate knowing. Thank you very much. Thank you, Heather. That does conclude our citizen comments for the evening. Thank you. We, as I said last meeting, it's an awkward format. It doesn't feel like there's an exchange of information, but we really do listen to what people say, and we appreciate your coming and sharing your thoughts with us. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve? So moved. Second. Any discussion?
I have a question for Lydia. Sorry, for your department, sorry. As we know, I've been doing a whole lot of traveling lately. I wasn't able to see the warrants until kind of the last minute. And so I was just wondering if I could have more information on page 1 of the Capital Projects Fund. There was a warrant for $209,903.11 to Snohomish County Planning and Development. If you could get that information, just one this time, I'm sure that everyone is going, woohoo, just one.
Okay.
I was also going to ask information on the check made out for Eric Lucas, but he left, so the whole humor of that would be lost. Don't do Eric. Okay, it's okay. I was kidding, but thanks.
Sure.
Any further discussion? I have a question about the Lake Washington Institute of Technology agreement. I'm just wondering, it looked to me there weren't any changes from last go around. I just wanted to confirm whether or not anything changed.
No, this is just a routine update of an interlocal agreement that allows some of our students to access their programs at their high school completion. So it's just
Okay, it's all
a
the same.
routine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. And that does pass unanimously. There are no action items at this time, so we will move on to the information items. The first on the next on the agenda is district budget status report for December 2014. Do board members have any questions?
So, board members, I'd like to add, Lydia, if you want to, there you go. Because we've been talking about this a little bit, and it came up during the study session as well, so I thought it was a good opportunity to perhaps talk about it with everybody. So as you can see, fund balance has been trending up this year compared to previous years, and so we've been talking about that. You want to maybe give a little kind of bird's eye view of sort of what's encompassed in that?
Absolutely. So what you see is total fund balance. What Chris and I study every month is the unassigned, unreserved. So part of that is a function is at the conclusion of the fiscal year last year, we set aside another $500,000 towards the opening of the new high school. That's in there. The board is committed to minimum fund balance of policy of 3%, was $346,000. So that's in there. As expenditures grow, that commitment has to grow larger. We have additional prepaid expenditures that are set aside waiting to be paid, so that's not available. So what we do is we research what's available to the district for any expenditures. We're about $700,000 above where we were last year. And if you look at that 3-year budget projection, there are some costs coming up that is going to utilize some of that $700,000, so that we're going to end the year certainly up from the prior year, but the unassigned fund balance should be pretty close to zero again.
Thanks. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just thought it was a timely question.
Sure.
I had two questions. One, the site expenditures under the capital projects fund. And it's just maybe ignorance on my part, I assumed that we were spending a lot on a site right now, but maybe that's not where the money is going. Like page 2.
So the sites right now would only be land, say, right-of-ways. The bulk of the expenditures will be in buildings,
Okay.
and then certainly some in equipment, but
So the North Creek site, that money is coming in elsewhere.
mostly building.
Got it,
Yeah.
okay. All right, and then my next question was under ASB. It seems low. I know that we still have another round of sports to go, but it still seems low for where we're at in the year. We've only received 36% of the revenues for ASB that we budgeted for this year.
I'd be happy to take a look. I don't know that
Okay.
one off the top.
I just am wondering if they're running under, and if we know why.
I'll look into it.
Okay, thanks.
So, Sammy, I can say as a former high school administrator, just in a general sense, ASB clubs tend to overestimate the amount of revenue that they're going to take in, so that they have capacity should they have exceptionally successful fundraisers.
Okay, so our budget for ASB comes from their
All 30
estimates, not
sites.
not from
Yeah.
previous years. Okay,
All 30 sites by club, by activity.
and then you added on.
And what I could do, which is an easy review, is just to see if they're comparable to prior years,
Okay.
trending the same way.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't for some reason.
Sure.
Running low on ASB. Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion or questions on this agenda item? No? All right, we'll move to the next agenda item, which is a debrief of the 2 o'clock study session on start time parameters and associated ramifications. We'll just pick up that conversation where we left off, which was really what's next? What do we foresee for 2015, 16, and 17? And I'll just recap what I heard so that you can correct me if I didn't get it correctly. But I had Amy supporting a move in 2015 to 740. She wanted to flesh out the Annette's idea of a three-tiered busing system, which would be additional costs for the, would like to understand the ramifications. You'd like to provide a little bit of relief for 2015. And overall, in general, I think supportive of a task force for looking at 2017 and moving forward. And would like to hear from the community about 8:30 as opposed to 8 o'clock to see if that's supported by the community. Is that fairly accurate representation? Okay. Dawn, I heard you say that you are 8:30, have been, always will be 8:30 firm. That you would like to see Annette's idea explored, that you were open to an interim plan, and I wrote changing bus schedules, and remind me what that was. Sorry.
No, I would say that I would be in favor of Amy's suggestions of both the 7:40 and the 8 o'clock, preferably the 8 o'clock, because I think that gets us to the 8:30, where the 7:40 perhaps makes a compromise that's a bit much. I remember saying that, but I would like to see us move on something to show good faith to the community and to get some relief to the kids.
And just to clarify, I didn't hear you say 8 o'clock for this coming year. Correct. Is that correct? Okay.
But I did hear her say she wanted to hear Annette's plan, and that was an 8 o'clock start time, so I think that's still on the table.
Not for 2015.
Well, I think the idea was that that plan hadn't been fleshed out in the spreadsheet in terms of implications and costs.
Okay.
And so to have that data would be helpful.
Okay. And then Kimberly, I heard you say that the messaging was really important, that educating the community is important around this topic, and treating it as a health issue and educating the community about why. Moving forward, that your experience with your daughter is a bit of a filter because you had a
No, I was only bringing that up in comparison to what
In
you were saying.
comparison to-
I've
okay.
actually been looking at the data and how
Yeah.
can we move forward on this? So that was just anecdotal, yeah.
okay. That was a side. I'm coming to the rest of it, but that you believe it can have a positive impact in the community if it's messaged correctly, and that you would like to see PALS members included in looking at it moving forward. And I think you said 2015 your first desire would be 8:30, but you recognize that, or you don't think that there's support on the board, and that you would support incremental change as a better than nothing. Is that anything you want to add to that?
So I just wanted, I wish the music people were here because I was a music student in the Belleville School District. So but I think we started at 8:05 or 8:10 at Belleville High School. So I do think that music, and there is a lot of research that shows that music is imperative to brain, not imperative, but music does correlate with brain development and different things. So I don't really see the music as an either or. Just to clarify that, I think I mentioned that at a study session. I think that we can do it with with the music program. I did talk about transportation though, and said that there might be viable options for the transportation as far as music went. So wanted to clarify that. I feel like the board that we need to focus on, as Sandy has said before, focus on the how, but that the how is really in the districts, the administrator's hands of how we're going to do, how this is going to be implemented. Larry, one thing that you told me when I came on the board and when we sat in your office, I can remember you saying, don't get caught up in the weeds, don't, and that was something that was really honed into me. And so I feel like in this situation, the board has gotten down to some of the weeds that really isn't our job to, and maybe it was necessary to give some parameters, but it really isn't our job. I've been going into research where, you guys can gather that same research about the how of how other school districts have done this, and look for what we might need to be creatively different in our school district, or where we can borrow what's already been done. I think the research is out there. I think part of educating the school district, like what the bus drivers maybe were speaking to, is also on teaching kids how to get to sleep earlier. It does talk about that in that study, and in some other studies, that they don't just go out to the school districts and talk about later start, that we also need to have the other conversation. We need later start, and here's some other health things that you need to do. So it is a more broader conversation than just the start times. But the start time is key, with then moving all these other things around it, having the conversation. And I think that the bus drivers also talked about flipping the elementary schedule, elementary schedule, which was something that I said might be beneficial to the. So I just think the how needs to now sit with you guys, and looking at what all these other school districts have done, and if we can get incrementally in 2015, that would be ideal. But we can do this, and if we need to get a task force, I support that for 2017 to get to 8:30, or close to 8:30.
Do you want to respond to that?
I can, unless you want to just finish your summary first.
We can do that. Thank you for the additions. I'm recapping our final conversation around that, so I didn't pull in some of the previous, so that's where that came from. Sandy, you're concerned that that we're suggesting change, that too much change that the community has not been sufficiently prepared for. That we have to have a process that includes the community before we dictate what the parameters will be, and that trying to rush the process will jeopardize the outcome. Is there anything you wanted to add to it?
That's good.
Yeah. I didn't write down what I said, so I can't remember for sure, but I think I just said that 10 minutes later is about the maximum that I feel we have capacity for without addressing some of the other issues. I'm concerned about finances. I think it's difficult to ask the district to address the how if we are not willing to really honestly look at the finances and what that means we're changing and giving up, because we have a finite amount of money, and we are choosing to spend more if necessary, or to make changes in support of later start. But it would be disingenuous to say to the community that that means everything else will stay the same. I think that's not an accurate message, and one that I would be reluctant to attempt to convey. I think that, as some of the bus drivers said, that we do have some other supports in the system for families that really have an urgent need. We have Running Start as an option. We have a 2 through 7 option that is growing. We have North Shore networks, like you observed. There are some incremental steps available, which I support all of those.
Students can we take into North Shore networks? That's pretty limited, isn't it?
It is a limited number, yeah.
don't know the exact number, but yes, it has
Yeah, it's not,
it has a ceiling.
20
it's
or
not however
30
many,
or.
yeah. So I think just deciding on what the next steps will be is where we have arrived in our conversation.
Well, I think for sure, to echo what Sandy said, time is of the essence to begin work for 2017.
Definitely.
So whatever we need to do to kick that off and in a way that the administration would suggest that, I know, Larry, I'm guessing you were hoping for more specifics on parameters, but hopefully the idea that we're open to your suggestions would be helpful.
So, yes, I was hoping for a little bit different outcome today. And I'll explain why in a moment, but I want to start by saying I think that the board, through the adoption of the resolution at the last meeting, set a really strong strategic direction and made a really unified statement about the importance of getting to a later start time by 2017. And I crafted that resolution myself based on what I thought I heard as a consensus statement of the board, and I think it's thoughtfully done, and I think it makes a strong statement of intent that provides good direction for the district. And I do believe that we have the internal capacity to hit that mark in 2017, particularly as we look at all of the other changes and all of the other opportunities that are out there in our district as we head towards the boundary readjustment and grade reconfiguration, the opening of a new high school. I mean, we're going to be a much different system, and I see it as an ideal time. The parameters really are operational and tactical items. However, I felt it really important to bring those to the board to get your eyes on them and your thinking about them. Because if the desire is to go forward with something this fall, 6 months from now, of something dramatic, 8:30, something big in the system has to give to make that happen. And I don't believe that there is widespread community readiness for whatever that something big may look like, or whatever combination of things that may look like. And so it's really important that I think, as the ones who will be potentially in the line of people who would be aggrieved, that you have a clear understanding of what you can support and not support in the event that some stakeholder group in the community gets activated. With that being said, I think we can make incremental steps this year, but I think incremental steps, we'll look at the 3-tier system. I think it's going to look pretty similar to some of the more expensive looking options that were done, but we'll take a look more specifically at that. It's essentially a sort of a twist on what we've already generated, but we'll take a look at that. But I still think it's going to be fairly costly, both in new buses and operational costs. I'm highly concerned about, 2 years from now, adding a new high school that's going to have an ongoing operational cost of between $1.75 million, $2 million a year. I want to keep my eye on that prize out there. It's not just one-time transition costs, it's the ongoing cost of that school. But I do think we can make incremental moves, either as we look internally at how we can tighten up scheduling, although that's difficult because we're adding more program services to our system as we think about more shuttles for North Shore Primary Center, more shuttles for E, those kinds of things. But I think the greatest way we can make incremental progress is through the shifting of the entire system. But even that, I think there is a real practical limit to the ability to be able to do that, because we're already hearing from our particular elementary schools on the other end that that's not a good move for them. But I think there might be a little bit of wiggle room that we can make there. But in a broader sense, I don't think the board should be at the tactical and operational level of decision making. I think that does need to go to a representative stakeholder task force. I look at others examples in the